I'm not sure because, the mafia as we know it has existed for a long time. But I remember reading a very compelling and um, sort of renowned scholarly article about how Hollywood, in many ways, created the mafia as we know it. Not that it didn't exist before, but that in in the way that we somehow relate to it, and it to itself, more importantly, how the mafia related to itself after The Godfather and became more of what it was, as opposed to maybe this kind of crime thing with maybe a few personalities that stood out as being just this whole ethos of something. And, we hear about that if you study Hollywood, that Capra created this image of what the small town somehow is. There's suddenly more definition to it. And once again, what does create the reality of something and the idea of something before that? And it's weird. I know that people kind of have been, over the years, curious about this Jeffrey Epstein and his island. And I won't go too into that because there's like a trillion videos out there about it. It had been on fire at some point, and I had looked up the fire. I think I had typed in fire Epstein Island, and strangely enough, what had appeared was was an old fantasy island from the 70s TV episode. I don't think I ever remember even watching it then. The 70s were just such a kind of on TV time, and I was like, what? That's so strange. It was an episode called The Victim, where there were these there was a man who lured a woman, and then it turned out he lured a lot of women to an island, and pretended to be in love with them, and then they became prisoners and prostitutes for businessmen who he had come and live on the island. And this is like a 70s TV show, and I'm like, wait a minute. Did Epstein get his idea for this from like this, 70s TV show? Like, could that really be? I mean, that is so weird. And then on top of that, as I started to look up Fantasy Island, the idea for it, I was reading, there was a man, and I think he had maybe created some TV shows in the past, but I'm not positive about that. I just kind of read like a little snippet, but he had like about 10 or 11 ideas. He finally got lunch with a couple of directors, and he was like, okay, this is great. I've got, like 11 ideas for TV shows, and, finally had this, important luncheon at the Beverly Hills Hotel or whatever. And he went through all of these developed ideas he had for TV shows, and the directors or producers or these money men showed absolutely no interest. And he was so upset, he ended up just saying, I think that you guys, I don't even know what you want. I don't even know what you people want. Do you just want some kind of, who knows, maybe all you want are just midgets and islands where people live out their crazy fantasies. So that's kind of weird too, that the whole show just came out of some guy who was mad and just sort of throwing out, the most insane thing he could think of. So, how do things come to be? How did the idea for Fantasy Island come to be with this, like, mad guy? And then Jeffrey Epstein's whole Fantasy Island. Where did it really come from? Oh my God. Maybe it's just getting late. But I thought I'd just have a little fun tonight. Sometimes things just get too crazy. Wait a minute, there's nothing fun about this. That's that really creepy island. And you'll see, if you look at some of the fantasy islands, I watched a few, and there were some that were, that's downright creepy. That one, if you want to see it, is called The Victim. And it also had the mermaid in it. They all seem to have two stories. And the mermaid, oddly, was Michelle Phillips. Here's one about, like, a devil, There was one with Jack the Ripper, like, going through time and winding up on it. It was just like, oh my God, like, what kind of thing is this? And then, like, Sonny Bono appeared, and it just got too surreal. And, a lot of the stories are just kind of maudlin and, just maudlin little tales. Some are maybe, tearjerker tales. But wow, embedded in there, I saw some strange predictive programming in a few. And I just don't know if I have the wherewithal to, like, rewatch reruns of Fantasy Island again. And yet there were times when it was like, oh my God, is this predictive programming or what? In some that may have seemed like they were maudlin or seemed like they were something else. So, I don't know. You might want to have fun with it. Just the strangeness of it that, here I am watching a Fantasy Island from the 70s, and it's quite not too unlike our Epstein Island of today. Strange world we live in, isn't it? Take good care. Maybe they'll make this into, like, Gitmo. Maybe Trump can build, like, a new Gitmo out of this place, because it looks like whatever he's draining is mighty big. Take good care. Bye.